Tonight's Friday night movie recommendation is The Great Escape. This film came out in 1963 and it was produced and directed by John Sturges. Okay, let's kind of set the scene for what 1963 was like. Walk Like a Man by the Four Seasons had just come out as a song. There was a lot of civil rights stuff going on. The Woolworth sit-in started. Was a civil rights thing where people sat in at Woolworths during the time of segregation. The Supreme Court ruled that state courts were required to provide legal counsel in criminal cases when defendants couldn't occur their own. I know we take that for granted now, but there was a time when that didn't happen. This was the year that Martin Luther King delivered "I Have a Dream" speech. There was a bombing that killed 4 girls in a church. John F. Kennedy delivered a speech on civil rights. There was a lot of change really happening in society, and it is also towards the end of the year when, and after this movie was released, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Now, the movie itself is set in World War II, and it's a fictional account of something that really did happen, where over 70 men escaped from a German POW camp in one night. Thus the title, The Great Escape. So this is a fictional retelling about real life situation, and it's all based on a book by a guy who was there. What I like about the movie is there's a sense of jauntiness to the film. There was optimism and hope, but it was neatly tucked away and not pulled out because the guys in the film realized that they were at war and they needed to deal with this rather cruel and vicious threat that was the Nazis. So they had there's a lot of stoic resolve going on in this film, but that feel of being able to overcome what's bad in the world while having bad things happening, that kind of really sticks strong in this film. And the music, I'll come back to the music, but anyway, so that's one of the reasons I really like about this film. The actors in this film are all name actors of the time. Donald Pleasance is in this, one of my favorite actors. You'll see some other actors who went on to have very strong TV careers, and a lot of other actors, most of them have since passed on, but these guys were phenomenal back in the day, and they're just great to watch. Steve McQueen does an outstanding performance. He'd been a rising star, and this was one of the films that really cemented him in superstardom as far as films were concerned. Now, it's hard to believe that this film didn't win any Oscars. It did receive a nomination for editing, but nothing else. I mean, I just find that bizarre because it's one of those movies that, well, first of all, it was the highest grossing film that year, just flat out. It just did a bonanza at the box office. And it remained for decades a go-to viewing on TV. I mean, if you were flipping through the channels and you came across The Great Escape, it just automatically ruled out anything else that was on television. You just sat down and you watched it. And so I think it still has legs. One of the things that makes this, to me, this film's a 10. Solid 10. And one of the reasons for that is the music. Elmer Bernstein, his musical score, this is one of those rare films where you hear just a few notes of a musical score and you can immediately identify not only the music but from which the music comes from. There are only a few movies out there like that, and not a lot of the more recent films have that. A good example, Star Wars, Jaws, the eat, eat, eat from Hitchcock's Psycho. All those films, Raiders of the Lost Ark, all those films have musical accompaniment that is stellar and highly represent the film. So does this film. The soundtrack to this film is absolutely wonderful, and I don't have it in the collection, and I just realized that now, and I'm thinking, I wouldn't mind having the Great Escape soundtrack. But you can skip going out and getting the soundtrack right now. Instead, go online, hunt it down, look for the Great Escape from 1963. You'll have a blast with it. Now where's my off?